Okay, and if you put in this Taylor series, if you put A is equal to 0, actually you are getting the Maclaurin series. Maclaurin series you are getting. Example, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Let us say you want to expand e raised to the power x. What is this f of x? F of x is e raised to the power x. I can say, what is this f of, I can also write it as f of 0 plus x. It will be equal to, right, here a is equal to 0, it will be equal to f of a, that is f of 0 plus h into f dash of 0, not h but x here, because now I have replaced this x with h here, right, it will be x into f dash of 0 plus x square upon 2 factorial into f double dash of 0 plus x cube upon 3 factorial into f triple dash of 0 and plus so on. Clear? Here I have replaced, this is my a now and this is my h now. So I have to expand this e raised to the power x in this form. So what it will be? Very simple now. Now what is this f of 0? F of 0 will be equal to 1 plus x into f dash of 0. What is the value of f dash of e raised to power x? Again e raised to power x. Clear? And if you put 0 here, it will be 1 plus x square upon 2 factorial, again double derivative also 1 plus x cube upon 3 factorial, triple derivative also 1, multiply and so on, and you are ultimately the expansion of e raised to the power x. You are getting this expansion. So that is how you can solve questions with the help of the Maclaurin series, and similarly you can solve the questions with the help of the Taylor series. For example, recently in GATE exam there was a question, the expansion for 10x, in ascending powers of x minus pi by 4 will be what? So very simple. So f of x, I have got it as 10x. Clear? Now let me do one thing. Let me put a is equals to minus pi by 4. A is equals to minus pi by 4. So it will be x minus pi by 4. A is my pi by 4. Okay. Sorry, the question was the expansion of 10x about x minus pi by 4 will be. This was the question. The expansion of 10x about x minus pi by 4 will be. So this is the expansion of 10x, right? It will be what? It will be equal to f of minus pi by 4 plus x into f dash of minus pi by 4 plus x square upon 2 factorial into f double dash of pi by 4 and so on. Clear? And that is how you can expand it. That is how you can expand this particular term. After this, students, we discussed was mean value theorems. After this, we discussed about the mean value theorems. So we have two mean value theorems. One is the Rolle's mean value theorem and second one is the Lagrange mean value theorem. These are the two theorems that we discussed. In Rolle's theorem, the question is, the statement is, this is my f of x and this is my x. F of x is y, right? Y is equals to f of x. So if you have a graph somewhat like this, and at certain point, that is x is equals to a, and at certain point x is equals to b, you have the same values of, this is x is equals to b. If f of x, so x is equals to a is equal to f of x is equal to b, right? If this is the case, then there will be at least one point, there will be at least one point that is x is equals to c, such that f dash at c is equal to 0. So that is a very obvious common sense. So if you have x is equals to a, if this value is equal to this value, whatever it is happening, there will be at least one value at which there will be at least one value, either this can be that value, or this can be that value, or this can be that value. If you draw the slope here, the slope will be equal to 0. The slope will be equal to 0. That is so obvious, right? This is what the Rolle's mean value theorem is. After this, we had the Lagrange mean value theorem. Number 2 was Lagrange mean value theorem. What did it say? It said that even though f of a is not equal to f of b, let us say that you have a graph somewhat like this. You have a graph somewhat like this, okay? And this is my b and this is my a. Even though f of a is not equal to f of b, but the graph is continuous, and it is continuous and differentiable everywhere. And so what do we do is that if you join these 2 points, here, the slope of this line, there will be at least a point C that if you keep on C, if you drop tangent here, it will be this, draw tangent this. So there will be at least one point at which the slope of both the lines will be same. The slope of this is equal to slope of this. Let us say the slope of this line is theta 1, the slope of this line is theta 2. So there will be at least one point C at which this theta 1 will become equal to theta 2. Clear? And we came out with the conclusion that how do we calculate this theta 1? So this is f dash at C, which is the slope at any point C, will be equal to, if you join these 2 points, f of b minus f of a, perpendicular divided by base, b minus a. So this is what we discussed in the Rolle's mean value theorem. Because if you have a line like this is my f of b, this is my f of a, right? So this theta will be equal to f of b, which is, this perpendicular, that is f of b minus f of a. You can take negative also. If it is if it is lesser, negative, positive, the same expression, right? This is my f of a, this is my f of b, and this whole thing is my b minus a. So tan theta, which is the slope, which is equals to f of b minus f of a divided by b minus a. That is what we discussed in the Rolle's mean value theorem. Then we also solved some questions on Rolle's mean value theorem as well as the Lagrange mean value theorem. After that, we discussed about the improper integrals. After this, we discussed about the improper integrals. Right. A particular integral, that is your integration from a to b, f of x dx, it is said to be as an improper integral if, number 1, either a or b is infinite. A or b, either the lower limit or the upper limit is unbounded. Unbounded means infinite. So we have a word in improper, that is unbounded and bounded. Unbounded means infinite and bounded means definite value. Bounded means definite value. Definite value. Or the value of a or the value of this function at either b is infinite. We say that that type of integral is said to be as an improper integral. After this, I also told you the significance of convergent and divergent series. What is the meaning of convergent and divergent? Now, dear students, whenever you are doing some integration, let us say integration from a to b f of x dx, you are doing some integration. Clear? And you are getting some value, that is plus minus infinity. You are not getting an exact value. We say that the series is divergent in nature. Divergent means that you are not getting an exact value. We say that the series is divergent. It is divergent. Clear? Similarly, if integration from a to b f of x dx, you are getting some definite value, 2, 3, 4, 5, some definite value, we say it is convergent. It means that it converges to some definite point. Converging means this. It means that you are getting some exact point. So we are getting some inference point. Divergent means you are getting away from the root. You are not getting an exact root. You are getting some infinite roots. That is the meaning of divergent. Okay? Let us solve a question. The question is integration from 0 to infinity e raised to the power minus x dx. So we have to see whether it is convergent or divergent in nature. So first of all, it is an improper integral because either b should be equal to infinity or a should be equal to infinity. Here we have this b equal to infinity. It is an improper integral. Okay, now let us see it is convergent or divergent. And how to solve this improper integral? Okay, first of all, let us solve it. Then I'll be telling you how to solve it. Integral of e raised to power minus x. It will be equal to e raised to the power minus x divided by minus integration from 0 to infinity. Okay? Integration from 0 to infinity. Upper limit minus lower limit. Now how to solve an improper integral? So we have a method to solve an improper integral. We will say that it will be equal to limit x tending to infinity, upper limit, e raised to the power minus x divided by minus 1, upper limit, minus lower limit, limit x tending to 0, e raised to the power minus x divided by minus 1. Because sometimes you might have some questions in which it is difficult to find out the limit of x tending to upper limit and lower limit, then we apply the L'Hospital's rule. So that is the, you can say, procedure for solving the improper integral also. So it will be upper limit, if you put e raised to power minus and it will be 0, upper limit minus lower limit minus, it will be equal to negative of 1. So the correct answer will be 1. So 1 will be the correct answer of this question. Question. Next question is integration from minus infinity to infinity 1 upon 1 plus x square dx. This is what the question is. Integration from minus infinity to infinity 1 plus x square. Clear? Again the same thing. So first of all, integration of this will be what? That will be tan inverse of x. Tan inverse of x. Now we have to put the lower limit as minus infinity and the upper limit as infinity. Now let me do one thing. It will be equal to limit to infinity upper limit tan inverse of x. Tan inverse of x upper limit minus limit x tending to minus infinity tan inverse of x. So what is infinity? If you put here tan inverse of infinity is pi by 2. So pi by 2 minus, it will be minus pi by 2. And it will be equal to, if you solve it, you will be getting the answer as pi. The answer will be pi. Let us solve one more question. Question is the series integration from, not series, let me solve one integral question. Integration from 0 to infinity dx upon x raised to the power n, right? Where for a to infinity, where a is greater than 0 is convergent for option A, all n greater than 0, option number B, at all n smaller than 0, option number C, all n greater than 1, and option number D, all n. So this is a question we have to see for what value of n this particular series is actually convergent. Convergent means that you are getting some exact value of it. Let us do it. Solution. Solution. So integration from 0 to infinity dx upon x raised to the power n, and a is greater than 1. This is a, lower limit is a. It will be equal to x raised to the power minus n plus 1 divided by minus n plus 1 a to infinity. It will be 1 upon 1 minus n. Okay, then we have limit x tending to infinity, the upper limit x tending to infinity, okay, x raised to the power 1 minus n, upper limit, minus lower limit, limit x tending to a, x raised to the power 1 minus n. So this is what it is. Clear? Now I can also minus n limit x tending to infinity 1 upon x is to the power n minus 1 also I can write it. Clear? Minus limit x tending to a 1 upon x raised to the power n minus 1. That is what I can write. And a is greater than 0. Now what are the various options we have? So if you put x is equals to infinity here, so whatever the value of n is, it will be equal to 0. But if you put n is equal to 0, it will become x raised to the power minus 1. So it will go at the numerator and it will be divergent in nature. Now see, it means that this n minus 1 should always be greater than 0. Right? Or I can say that n should always be greater than 1. Or I can say that, you can also write it like this, n should always be greater than 1. N should always be greater than 1. Because if n becomes, let us say 0, right? If n becomes, let us say 0, greater than or equal to 1. If n becomes is equal to 0, it is negative. Negative will go at the top and you will be getting a divergent series. But n cannot be equal to 1, because if you put n is equal to 1, here it will be infinity, again it will be divergent. So that is why I am removing the sign of equality here. I am removing the sign of equality, and I will be getting from this result, I will be getting n should be greater than 1. If n is greater than 1, I am getting some, okay. And for this, if n is greater than 1, x is some definite point. So obviously you are getting 1 divided by some definite point, some definite value will be getting. So the correct answer will be for all n greater than 1, you are getting this series to be as convergent. Otherwise divergent. So for all n greater than 1, it is convergent in nature. Let us go to the options now. All n greater than 0, obviously it cannot be, right? All, because even if it is 0.5, you will be getting some divergent value. Obviously this cannot be. Yeah, greater than 1. Yeah, this is the correct answer of this question. I hope you have got it. What is the meaning of convergent and divergent? Clear? Now, after this, what we discussed in the class was, after this convergent, divergent, then we move to the topic of partial differentiation, right? After this, we move to the topic of partial differentiation. After this, we started the topic of partial differentiation. So partial differentiation, basically, for example, you have a three-dimensional thing, right? For example, let us say, let me give you an example. Let us say that we have some cardboard type of thing here, right? So this is my some x-axis, this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. Now let us say we have this type of surface here, right? So this type of surface is, if you draw a tangent, it is also making an angle with the y-axis, it is also making an angle with the x-axis also if you drop a tangent, right? So this particular surface is making an angle with both the axes. Clear? Now, how to measure it? How to measure a three-dimensional thing for which that we have the partial differentiation, right? What is the angle made by this particular surface with both the axes? That is called as the partial differentiation, right? Now, because in differentiation you are getting slope. Because in differentiation, if you are saying that, sir, I am doing dy by dx. dy by dx ultimately it means slope, theta or m, slope of the line, right? This is the y-axis, this is my x-axis, this is some curve. If you're drawing dy by dx, it means that at any point you are drawing how much is this slope it is. That is the meaning of dy by dx. What is the meaning of partial derivative? Partial differential given by dou f upon dou x, or dou f upon dou y, or dou f upon dou x dou y, and so on. Dou square f upon dou x square, right? And so on. What is the meaning of it? So for example, you have a three-dimensional thing here. If it is three-dimensional, it's somewhat like this, a three-dimensional surface you have. You cannot draw a three-dimensional surface, just try to imagine it, right? Then how much, if you drop a tangent, at any point you can drop two tangents, or even three tangents also, right? How much is the slope of the tangent with the y-axis? How much is the slope of the tangent with the x-axis? That is what we discuss in this particular chapter. The partial differentiation. For example, let us say that you have a question. Question is z is equal to x square plus y square plus x square y square. Right? Value of dou z by dou x plus 2 times of dou square z by dou y square plus dou z by dou y plus 3 dou square z by dou x dou y plus 3 times of dou square z by dou x dou y plus 2 times of dou square z by dou x square will be equal to what at x comma y is equal to 1 comma 1. How much will be equal to? That is what we have to find it. Again, very simple. Dou z by dou x. Dou z by dou x will be equal to, I am directly writing it, dou z by dou x will be equal to 2 times of x plus 2 times of x into y square. Because whenever you are doing the partial derivative, we say that one of the variable is constant, we consider one as to be constant and other one is varying, right? This is my this plus 2 times of dou square z by dou y square. If you do 1 times of partial derivative, 2 times of y plus 2 times of y square. Again derivative, it will be just 2 here. It will be 2 here, and plus it will be x square and 2x square here. Plus dou z by dou y. Dou z by dou y will be what? It will be 2 times of y plus 2 times of y x square. This will be dou z by dou y. Plus 3 times of dou square z by dou x dou y. First of all, let me do the partial derivative with respect to x. If you do it with respect to x, it will be 2 times of x and plus 2 times of x y square. Now with respect to y, it will be 4 times of xy. So 4 times of xy it will be. So plus 3 times of 4xy plus 3 times of 4xy and plus 2 times of dou square z upon dou x square. So again with respect to x, it will be plus 2 times of y square. So 2 plus 2y square. So it will be plus 2 times of 2 plus 2y square. That is what ultimately I will be getting. Now let us put the points x 1 comma 1. If you put 1 comma 1, 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2 plus again 2 plus 2 plus 3 into 4 and plus 2 4. We'll be getting 4 plus 8 plus 4 plus 12 plus 8, 24, 32 and 4, that is 36. 36. After this, I also told you that while going for the partial derivative, even for some other, some formula will be very useful to you, right? Let me write down directly the formula. The first formula was sine of a plus b will be equal to sine of a cos of b plus, plus cos of a into sine of b. This is the number one formula which will be helpful. After that, I told you that if it is sine of a minus b here, it will be sine of a cos of b minus cos of a into sine of b. This was the second formula which I told you will be useful. The third formula was cos of a plus b, and cos of a plus b will be equal to cos of a cos of b minus sine of a and sine of b. The next formula which I told you will be useful is cos of a minus b. Cos of a minus b will be equal to cos of a into cos of b plus sine of a into sine of b. Sine of a into sine of b. One more formula I told you will be useful, that is sine square a plus cos square a. Everybody knows it. It is equal to 1. After it, sine 2a, this also everybody knows. Sine 2a is 2 sine a cos a, 2 sine a into cos of a. Everybody knows it. Then we have 2 sine of a cos of b. It will be equal to sine a plus b plus sine a minus b. Sine of a plus b, right, plus sine of a minus b. All these we have already discussed in class 12th also. I am just writing all these formulae because in solving integration, differentiation, all these formulas sometimes are used, right? Then we have 2 times of cos of a sine of b. It becomes equal to sine of a minus b 2 cos a sine b. It will sine of a plus b, sine of a plus b minus sine of a minus b. Then we have 2 cos a cos of b will be equal to cos a plus b plus cos a minus b. Then we have 2 sin a sin b. It is equal to cos a minus b minus cos a plus b. After this, the last formula which will be useful is cos 2a. So cos 2a will be equal to 2 cos square a minus 1. Because I know that after 12th class people forget all these formulae. In class 12th when you are preparing for JW or some other competitive exam, these formulae are very fresh. Or you can also write it like 1 minus 2 sin square a. So these are the few formulae which I told you will be useful in the whole calculus portion. Then we move to the concept of total differentiation. total differentiation. Let us say that we have a function u. U is a function of x and y. That is x and y. And x and y are also a function of some other variable, that is t. So we know how to form du by dx, du by dy. But if sometimes in examination you have to find the relationship between these two things, then the concept of total differentiation comes into picture. So du divided by dt. If you want to find this du divided by dt, so what do we have to do is that, first of all, the partial derivative of u with respect to x, that is dou u upon dou x. That is dou u upon dou x. Then we have the partial derivative x with respect to t, dou x upon dou t. Or you can just directly write dx upon dt, because it is just a function of t here, right? It is just a function of t here. U is a function of x and t, okay, and x is a function of t. That is why it is partial here. And plus, right, plus dou u by dou y, okay, x, y and t, yes, plus dou u by dou y into dy by dt, and y is also only a function of t. U is a function of x, both, all the three. That is, u is a function of it is a function of x, y and t. U is a function of x, y and t, and x is just a function of t, and y is also a function of t. Then du upon dt, if you want to define the relationship between this and the last thing, then we have the concept of the total differentiation of the total derivative. Then we also solved some questions on this topic. Okay, they were very lengthy questions we have already solved in the class. Yes. Now after this we move to the concept of maxima and minima. Maxima and minima. Two things we discussed. First is for a single variable and for two variables. For single variable we have the concept of derivative dy by dx, and for this we have the concept of partial derivative dou y upon dou x dou y, or you can say dou z upon dou x, dou z upon dou y, and so on. Okay. First of all, let us discuss about the single variable. Now what is the concept of maxima and minima? Let us say that you have a curve somewhat like this. You have a curve. So this is some curve like this. Okay. Now at this point the slope is 0, at this point the slope is 0, at this point let us say curve is going somewhat like this. At this point the slope is 0, at this point also the slope is 0. Like this point the slope is also 0. So we say that this particular point can have maxima or minima either at this point or 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 at this point. Now if the graph is going somewhat like this, this can also have a maxima or minima at the end points also, it can have a maxima or minima, depending upon your interval is a closed interval or your interval is an open interval. If the interval is a closed interval, we will also check whether the particular function will have maxima or minima at the end points or not. But if it is an open interval, so we will not check at the end points. But if it is a comma b closed interval, we will also check it at b also and a also. Okay, so now first of all let us say that some f of y is given to you, some function is given, y is equals to some f of x is given to you, for example. Okay, this is given some f of x, y is equal to some function of x is given to you, it is some function of x is given to you. Clear? So first of all, we will find all these points where the slope is 0. Tangent, slope 0, tangent, slope 0, tangent. So first of all, we find all these points, put them equal to 0. So you will be getting this x1, x2, x3, x4, x5 and 6. After this, what do we do is that we determine the double derivative. Why double derivative? Because while going in a minima, the slope is actually slowly, the slope is increasing, right? After this, it will slowly increase. But here, after it has got a maxima, the slope will keep on decreasing. So similarly, what is d square y by dy square? The rate of change of slope. If it is less than 0, we have a maxima. And if it is d square y upon dx square, if it is greater than 0, we have a minima. And if it is 0, it means that it is a straight line. That is the meaning of that. If it is 0, it is a straight line. It is neither changing, it is neither decreasing, it is neither increasing. Okay? The rate of change of slope. Either it is a straight line, either this is a straight line or this is a straight line. So it is some in between point it is. If it is 0. So that is what we discussed in the case of single variable. Now if we have two variables, if let us say that it is a three-dimensional thing here. This is my z, this is my y, this is my x, and you have a three-dimensional figure here. Some three-dimensional figure is this, right? What you will do? So the value of z is changing depending on x or y, right? So z, it is a function of x and y. It means that now we have to use the concept of partial differentiation. So first, what are the various steps? Step number 1. Step number one is find dou z by dou x and dou z by dou y. This was the first step. First of all, you find the dou z by dou x and dou z by dou y. The second step was same. Second step was also same, just like this. Put dou z by dou x is equals to 0 and dou z by dou y is equal to 0. You put them equal to 0. If you put them equal to 0, after solving these two equations, right? After solving this, let us say A equation and this is my B equation. After solving these two equations, you will be getting some values of x and y. Let us say x is equal to. After solving these two equations, you will be getting some values of x and y. Clear? These x and y, this x comma y, it is equal to a comma b. These are called as the critical points. These are called as critical points. After finding the critical points, what do we do is that we further find step number 3. We further go to step number 3. In step number 3, we find the value of r. What is this r? R is dou square z by dou x square. Then we find the value of s. What is this s? Dou square z by dou x dou y. Rs, then we find the value of t. That is dou square z by dou y square. We find these three values, that is r, comma, s and t. We find these three values. Once you have found out all these three values, then we move to step number 4. Step number 4. What do we do is that we find the value of rt minus s square. Rt minus s square. At these critical points, by the way, at these critical points, that is a comma b, I would say a comma b at critical points. Then we find the value of rt minus s square. Clear? Now, for this we have the cases. Number 1, if rt minus s square is greater than 0, right? Clear? It is greater than 0. We say that x comma y is equal to a comma b will give you a point of maxima, right? Oh, sorry, will give you a point of minima, will be minima. minima if r is also greater than 0. If r is also greater than 0, it will give you a minima, and f of a comma b and f of a comma b will give you the minimum value. Will give you minimum value. This is the number one case. If rt minus s square, it becomes greater than 0, we say that it is a minima, and if you have to see r also, if r is greater than 0, equal to 0 or less than 0, that is also what we have to find. After this, b, if rt minus s square, if it is greater than 0, if it is greater than 0, clear, but r is less than 0, but r is less than 0, then we have maxima. Maxima, and f of a comma b are the points of maximum. But if, number C, if rt minus s square is less than 0, whether r is greater than 0, less than 0, we do not care at all, neither maximum nor minima. It is some in between point, neither maxima nor minima. It is in some between. And if rt minus s square becomes equal to 0, further investigation is required. Further investigation is required. So these are the various conditions. So these are the various conditions for which you will be getting the maxima or minima of a particular function. Clear? Yes. Yes, correct. And one more very important point, I told you that while solving numericals, we do not test maxima or minima at origin. We do not test the maxima or minima at the origin. That is the standard rule, right? That we do not test the maxima and minima at the origin while solving numericals. So if you are getting some critical point as 0, do not check whether you will the particular function will have maxima or minima at that particular point or not. Don't check it. Let us solve a question directly. Question is, this is the question, z is equal to x cube plus y cube minus 3xy has, number 1, maximum value is equal to 1, b, minimum value is equal to -1, c, maximum value is equal to 2, and d, minimum value is equal to -2. That is what we have to find. Again, solution. Step number 1 is find dou z by dou x and dou z by dou y. Dou z by dou x will be equal to what? 3x square minus 3y. Put it equal to 0. One equation. Let us say equation number A. Dou z by dou y equal to 3y square minus 3 times of x is equal to from A and B, let us say this is B, from A and B, from A and B. If you solve A and B, right, how to solve it? So 3 times of x square is equals to 3 times of y, right? X will be equal to 3 by 3, x will be equal to root of y, x will be equal to root of y. If you take this root of y common, ultimately what you will be getting is that this x can be equal to 0, because if you put x is equals to 0 and y is equals to 0, this also will satisfy this equation, and if you put x is equals to 1 and y equal to 1, both the equations will be satisfied. For x is equals to 1 and y is equal to 1, both the equations will be satisfied. So both these two equations will be satisfied for both x is equals to 0, y equal to 0, and x equal to 1, y equal to 1. X equal to 0, y equal to 0 is the origin. And I told you one thing, we do not test maximum minima at the origin, so we will neglect this point. We will neglect this point. Neglect it. We do not check the maxima and minima at the origin. This is neglected. So we will only be checking the maxima and minima at this critical point. So these are the critical points we have. Critical points that we have. Now, step number 2. Find R, S, T. R is dou square z by dou x square. So dou x by this was, dou x square will be equal to 6x. So R will be equal to 6s. S will be equal to dou square z by dou x dou y. Now with respect to y, it will be equal, this is with respect to x, with respect to y, this will be 0, only minus 3. And T will be equal to, with respect to y square again, so 6 times of y. 6 times of y. Let us find the values of all these things at x is equal to 1 and y equal to 1. If you put 1 and 1, R will be 6, x will be minus 3, and T will be 6. Now what do we have to find? R, S, T. So R into T minus S square, we have to find this. What is this R into T? R into T minus S square, minus of minus 3 whole square, 36 minus 9, 27. Sorry. Yes, 27. Which is greater than 0. So we have got this thing as greater than 0. So RS minus T square, sorry, RT minus S square, it is greater than 0. And what is the value of R? The R value, it is equal to 6, and it is also greater than 0. So we have got two values greater than 0. So it means that it is either a maxima or a minima, and it means that it is a minima. It means that it is a minima. So this point that we have got, that x is equals to 1 and y is equal to 1, it is a point of minima. Why minima? Let us go to the theory part. This was the theory part here. See here. Greater than 0, but R is less than 0, maxima. Greater than 0, and greater than 0, we say it is a minima. So x is equals to 1, y equal to 1 is a point of minima. Let us put the value of x equal to 1, y equal to 1 in the function itself. Now what was the function? Let us go to the numerical directly. The function was, this was the function. Let us put the value of x and y here. If you put the value of x and y here, z is equals to 1 whole cube plus 1 whole cube minus 3 into 1 into 1, it will be equal to 2, minus 3 will be equal to minus 1. So this is the minimum value is minus 1. Has a maximum value? No, correct, incorrect. Minimum minus 1 correct, no, incorrect, and incorrect. So this is the correct answer of this question. Clear? So that is how we solve the questions of the maxima and minima from the calculus portion. After this, we move to the vector calculus. Now let us start the vector calculus directly. Then we move to the vector calculus. which is also part of calculus. Okay students, it's almost time. So now let me do one thing. Let us call it a day. Let us meet in the next lecture, and in the next lecture we will again be doing the revision of the vector calculus, right? After the vector calculus we started the linear algebra, in which we have the matrices and determinants, the various types of matrix that we discussed, what are the various properties of determinants, rank of a matrix and all those things, okay? And after that we have the numerical methods. We have the Euler's method, we have other types of method, numerical differentiation, numerical integration, and the last topic was the probability and the statistics that we discussed, okay? So in the next lecture we will be discussing this vector calculus. Till then, have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Thank you everyone. Bye bye. Take care.